Good evening, friends, and welcome to our Tuesday evening healing service. Welcome, Sandy. Welcome, Dawn. Welcome, all of our YouTube viewers. It is certainly a much cooler evening this evening. I don't think I can complain too much about the heat. We had some wonderful showers, and so the time is a lot less hot as it usually is. And so as we are coming into the meeting, welcome one and all, and we'll just become still and we'll begin, as all things do here at the temple, with our opening affirmative prayer. Recognizing that there's only one presence, one power, one infinite intelligence. That intelligence is God, and we are one with it. And in this knowing, I speak this word for this evening's healing service, knowing that it is indeed a time that we come together to explore ideas about the teachings of the science of mind. And so as we tune into this evening's service, I'm knowing that for every person within the sound of my voice, that they participate fully. I know that this evening's exchange is one of joy and laughter and harmony. And I know that the exchange of ideas allows us to expand our consciousness as we move onward on this pathway of light and illumination. So I know for every person present this evening that they participate fully in this evening activity. And so I accept that each one of us who has chosen to be here this evening is in our rightful place. And those who are on the way, we know that where we are, God is and all is well. And so I release this word to Lord, giving thanks that all this is already so. And so it is. And so as we remain in this quiet space for a moment, I'm going to ask you to gently close your eyes as we go into an evening meditation for a few minutes of quietude as we put down today's activity. So as we gently bring our attention back into this room and open our eyes, become aware again of our surroundings, we're simply tuning to this present moment. Welcome back. And it's good to see you, and it's good to have you here with me. Friends, in our healing service, our spiritual mind healing service, we get an opportunity to share ideas with each other. We get an opportunity to ask questions and share some demonstrations of answered prayers. And so this evening, as I go into my presentation, I would like to start off with a question. We're just coming out of the silence. So if I ask you to just be quiet once more, do you hear that? And I want you to continue to contemplate that question. And if you have an answer, feel free to unmute and share, because this evening we will be having an interactive session. So if any of you have an answer to the question that I just posed, you can go ahead and share. But what I want to tell you is that while I was preparing for this evening's talk, I discovered that today, July 18, is being observed and celebrated as World Listening Day. The question, Dawn, was, do you hear that? Are you hearing me? Let me make sure my microphone is up.
Hearing you good and clear, Jenny.
Okay, great. And so, yes, back to what I was sharing. It's a day, today, July 18th, and it's observed annually, is a day to practice less talking and more listening. How many of you were aware of this observance on July 18 every year? I'm not sure, but not many, I believe. So I'll give you a little bit of background to this celebration. It is observed as the birth date of Raymond Murray Schafer. He's a Canadian composer and environmentalist who is seen as the founder of acoustic ecology. And every year, World Listening Project host, it's a nonprofit organization. So let me just tell you who they are. They are devoted to understanding the world and its natural environment, societies and cultures, and through the practice of listening and field recordings, they host this day annually called World Listening Day. They believe that the study of acoustics and listening is a link between human and the natural environment, and it is mediated by sound. So today on World Listening Day, we are asked to close our eyes, open our ears, and prepare to investigate soundscapes. So that is the world around us. You know, this practice of closing our eyes and opening our ears while we are observing the world through our auditory senses allows for us to truly listen. And so we often go quiet, go within, and that's how we can contact the still small voice that whispers through us through many forms. And if you were here last week, and I'm sure you were, practitioner Sandra Cooper shared with us about God sightings. And in her presentation, she shared about seeing God showing up in the things we see and how it made us feel. Well, today, we are invited to experience God through our sense of hearing. Our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, in our Science of Mind textbook, on page 258 states, and I quote, "Hearing is a divine idea in mind, and all divine ideas are perfect," end quote. Thus, when we engage in the act of listening, we are engaging with the divine. Listening is an art that requires undivided attention and patience from a person, and it benefits another who is in need of it. Listening is also beneficial for the listener, improving their listening skills and sharpening their awareness of their surroundings. So as important as our sense of hearing is, we don't use it effectively. You know, many times we're blocking out most of the sounds and voices, and we're failing to pay attention to what is being said. And we're not really listening to the message. So with the hustle and bustle of today's world, oftentimes, friends, we find ourselves in that situation where we're not really listening to the world around us and what's happening in our environment. And of course, this nonstop use of technology prevents us from shutting out noise and listening intently. But on World Listening Day, which is today, this is exactly what is practiced. Talking less, listening more, listening to friends, your family, and having heart-to-heart conversations with patience are encouraged as something we should strive to do every day, but definitely on this day. And of course, right here in our spiritual community, we can engage in comforting others, being there for them by listening to them, even if it is that they need to vent. It is oftentimes therapeutic when you find that you are really listened to and you're often heard. And again, as I mentioned, it's beneficial for both the listener and the speaker. But hello, are you listening? Too often we think we are listening, but our mind is wandering out to other topics. And it is increasingly prevalent today as we engage in multitasking. You know, that famous multitasking that we are so proud of that we're able to do. But what it does is that we may find that we engage in this activity. So we're on the phone with someone while we're also perhaps preparing dinner, or we're engaging in a number of other tasks. And it is rare to have a one-on-one conversation anymore without addressing something else. And we lose sight of the divinity of the other person when we listen in this way. In our Science of Mind magazine back in January, in one of the daily guides by Reverend Christine Green, entitled, "Can You Hear Me Now?" She says, and I quote, "The true gift of listening happens when we are fully present and receptive to what another person is saying. We may not fully agree with what they are saying, but we honor and listen to their story," end quote. Yes, friends, even if you're in the workplace and someone comes maybe to your office to speak with you, put your cell phone down, maybe even put it out of sight. Stop checking emails and give the person your undivided attention by fully listening. And don't just listen with the intention to respond. Listen truly. You know, Dr. Holmes also said in his book, Creative Mind and Success, it says, his quote is, "Be sufficient." I'm sorry, I was just reading the chat, but I'm going to come back to Carol's comment. "Be sufficient with yourself, and at the same time, include all else, and people will feel your strength and will have a desire to come to the radiance of it." So friends, if you give people your attention, they definitely will respond to you. And I'm just going to open the chat right here because I did say it would be interactive. So let me just read the comment. Carol says, "Believe it or not, just before I came on here, I was listening to a meditation with Mooji on listening to the silence, one mind." And maybe he is also aware that today is World Listening Day. And so, Dawn, you have a question. You want to open your mic and go ahead?
Not really a question, more of a comment.
Sure.
First, I'm hearing about World Listening Day, but I find it most interesting because it is something I find myself doing. I will go all day, don't turn on radio, nothing, and I'm just listening to sounds, other sounds that are outside. What I know I'm guilty of sometimes, I'm in a conversation with someone, and because I'm anticipating what they might say, I sort of cut them out in my mind because what I think they're going to say, and so I'm guilty of that. But it's a good idea. I like it because, in other words, I'm already practicing it to a degree.
Right.
Listen to the sounds that are around me, the birds, the wind in the breeze. Because when I was in Irish Town, oftentimes mommy come home, and if it wasn't for the fact that my car is there, she wouldn't know I'm there. Everywhere is quiet. Nothing is on. No radio, no TV, nothing.
And that's my point.
So that's scary.
And it's a good practice. I see Carol has raised her hand as well. Please go ahead. And Dawn, you can lower yours. Go ahead, Carol.
Yes, you had mentioned Murray Schaefer at the beginning of the talk.
Yeah.
And while I still lived in Canada,
Mhm.
I remember every year he would have a concert in British Columbia
Right.
on one of the large lakes in British Columbia
Mhm.
at dawn, where it was just uh, his instrument and the sounds of nature,
Wow.
which he kind of wove the two together. It was magical
I
because this
can
was
just only imagine.
it was very meditative, and it would always
Mhm.
start. Well, dawn in Canada is very dark. So you would go out all bundled up to the lake,
Oh,
and by the time it was finished, light was just beginning to come through, but it was all about his his instrument
yes.
making sounds, mixing sounds with the sounds of nature. It
Nature.
was gorgeous.
Awesome. And it's actually his birthday that they are observing this holiday on Carol, July 18th. So it's his birthday that has become World Listening Day. So it's interesting that you are aware of his work. And so he is credited with the person who has given us this opportunity about acoustics and sound.
Yeah.
And I think it's just an awesome activity to be associated with. But in continuing with some of the other ideas, friends, we know that in listening, this is something that we do even when carrying out our spiritual practices. As you well know, when we do even our affirmative prayers, we actively listen to our guidance that we receive. And in our meditation practice more than ever, when we go into the silence, we sit there and we listen for the still small voice within. And we let our inner ear listen to the voice of truth that is always speaking. And there's an affirmation that I'm going to share with you, and I'll try and type it in the chat too. And it's from the Science of Mind textbook, and I'll read it once. And it says, I perfectly hear the voice of good. My ears are open to the divine harmony. The inner ear and the outer ear are both open and receptive to the vibration of perfect harmony. But I'll repeat the first part of it. I perfectly hear the voice of good. My ears are open to the divine harmony. And I'll put that part in the chat. So, of course, staying silent and contemplating the world around us by listening calms and soothes our thoughts. And the aim of the day is to cultivate better listening and understanding and learning from this underrated act, because we really don't pay much attention to the act of listening. But here are a few suggested activities that you can do in observance of World Listening Day. And I'll share two that I got while doing this research. And you may already do this. So one, go on a solo listening walk. It says pick a route, any route. If you live near the beach, take a stroll along by the ocean and listen to the waves. Or maybe you want to walk through the woods and hear what the wind sounds like going through the trees. And if you don't live near anything resembling nature, it says walk in a 10-block loop around your neighborhood. Take out your headphones. Don't say a word. And try to pay attention to each individual sound you hear along the way. See how many sounds you notice and how it made you feel. And if you're able to experience the sound, what do you notice about the sounds as they're coming? Is it a faraway sound or is it a nearby sound? Just listen. And maybe even at the end of that activity, you may want to journal about the experience for those of us who like to journal. And even if you don't like to journal, it might be a good way to just capture the essence of what that walk meant to you. And then another activity, which is one Carol just shared, about, it says go to a concert. And you don't have to listen to natural sounds only to appreciate the spirit of World Listening Day. It says buy tickets to a concert. It could be a symphony playing Beethoven, or it may be that new electronic musician or a reggae concert. No matter what genre, challenge yourself to tune out all the background noise of your fellow concert goers and really isolate and appreciate the sound of the music. So Carol can speak to firsthand experience of that. Maybe that's something you want to challenge yourself to do. But friends, these are only a few suggestions of activities you can do. And I'm sure there are many others that you can come up with for yourself. And of course, while you may not have been able to fully participate in World Listening Day this year, especially if you're hearing about it for the first time this evening, you can still put into practice any of these activities. But I want to share some fun facts with you by numbers that you might find interesting before I wrap up. It says 20,000 to 30,000 is the number of words the average person hears over 24 hours. 70%, the percentage of time spent during the day engaged in some form of communication. And 55%, the percentage of time out of the above 70% that is devoted to listening. So we may be listening more than we think, but it goes on. 85%, the percentage of what we have learned through listening. And 450 is the average number of words you're able to listen to per minute. Imagine that. I don't know if we are counting, but they say that that's what we do, or we're able to do. And then this one, is interesting. It says 25%. The percentage of things people remember that they have listened to. But my friends, in closing this sharing, and of course it's interactive, here are 5 facts about listening that you might agree or disagree with. And the first fact is, women are better listeners. Research shows that women engage both lobes of their brains for listening, whereas men use only half of their brains. And I reserve my comments. 2, listening to music helps. Listening to music creates a stress-free environment. And for example, listening to music before surgery reduces cortisol levels, and it helps some students to relax and even study better before an exam. And I was one of those. When I was in high school, I studied with music. And then there is also number 3, which says, listening can help you lose weight. Now, I perked up when I read this one. But here's what the researchers have found, that listening to relaxing music while eating at a restaurant resulted in diners consuming 175 fewer calories. Well, I don't know about you, but it looked like we're going to have to play music every time we eat, because 175 calories, not cutting it for me. But anyway, fourthly, listening is a skill. Less than 2% of people have formal education on how to effectively listen. And 5, prerequisites to listening. To become an effective listener, it is important to not assume, refrain from making judgments, and hold your thoughts to really listen to what the other person is trying to convey. My friends, however you decide to celebrate World Listening Day, hopefully you will become a more effective listener, and having listened to this talk, that you will remember more than 25% of what you've just heard. Namaste. It's open for you to share. Any comments, additional comments, because people have been interacting? Yes, Idel, I see you have your hand up. Go ahead, and I'm going to read some comments in the chat.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. I actually was giving you a clap before I had my hand up.
Oh, I'm
There was
sorry.
a clap.
I just
Okay.
noticed the hand. Thank you,
Sorry.
Idel.
I thanks for this conversation
Yes.
because as you spoke about it, I couldn't help but thinking about the difference between hearing and listening.
Mhm.
You know, I know many people have their television on at 7 o'clock and the news is going on. They hear it, but they're not listening. But and this is a joke that I'm gonna say now. One of the things that I find interesting is when one goes shopping, you notice the kind of music some of the stores play.
Yes. Yes. Gets you
I
to
mean,
buy more.
before you know it, you look into your trolley or
Mhm.
your basket
And it full.
and you say, "Did I come in about this?" But you got so carried away with the
Yes.
with the very entertaining music
Mhm.
that you just saw everything you liked and loved and purchased.
Right.
But interestingly, what it does create though in that time, that period of relaxation and not throwing care to the wind, but
Mhm.
allowed it to relax to say, wait a minute, I mean, I can have some fun, you know.
Yes.
And the music is really, really always very, very entertaining that they sorry that they play. But I one of the things I've come to learn and beginning to appreciate is that difference between hearing and
And
listening. And
yes.
for all the points that you made
Mhm.
about listening and learning to listen. I mean, it's something I think it was Dawn who said that sometimes you're speaking with somebody and you know what they're going to say. So
Mhm.
you're literally saying it for them. And then you get into the confusion of, oh, but that's not what I meant, because of course we came to our own assumptions and so very, 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 very interesting presentation.
Thank you, Idel. And I'm telling you, I have that challenge. I work on myself a lot because, like Dawn, I'm doing that too. And I'm ready to respond before you're even finished talking. And we have a thing where we say to each other, let me land, let me land. Reverend John was
Yeah.
always saying, let me land.
Yeah.
And so it's something for us to do, to
I
practice.
think we all are guilty.
Guilty, Mirana, guilty. Now, Dawn has a comment that said in there, as the chat is moving up with, Carol said, firstly, believe it or not, no, that would depend on the type of music though, wouldn't it? And that's true. As Idel just shared, if you're in the supermarket or the store and you hear the music they're playing, you tend to pick up more things than you went in for. And then Carol also said, but some music could give you indigestion. And I think she was referencing here the fact about the researchers say that you lose weight if they play background music in the restaurant. Well, I'm sorry, 175 calories is not enough for me to lose weight. So I'm not sure if I buy that one. But thanks for your comment, Carol. And Reverend Michael says, of course, God speaks to us through all our senses. I'm waiting to see who will found World Smelling Day and World Tasting Day. Interesting talk. Thank you, Reverend Michael. No doubt, I'm sure they already have those two. But we will see. If I come across them, I will share with you. And then Van says, remember compassion and empathy while listening. And that's true. That's important. When we listen with compassion and empathy, help to put ourselves in the other person's place. And Dawn says, music playing at a particular supermarket had me dancing in the aisles. Well, Dawn, that's the way to get you to shop more. Indeed. I really thank you for these comments. And I thought it was interesting too for me. I never heard of this day before. But like everything else, it's always good when you can hear about something new, but you can also apply it in your daily lives. And that's the takeaway for me about this activity and truly learning to listen to each other. Any comments was on YouTube, Vance, just before I ask for your prayer request. You can, for those of us in Zoom here, we can put it in the chat. And
just Yvonne Chang Oliver saying to pay attention to what is being said before making a comment.
okay. Okay, that's good. That's true. We should listen. And yes, Reverend Michael, I'll send it to you. He wanted me to send a talk. We should listen before we make a comment. I agree with that. Thanks, Yvonne, and thanks for keeping the YouTube family in a part of this evening's presentation. So it's time for us to have our prayer requests. I have one for health, for Dawn. Is there anyone else who would want to have that similar affirmative prayer? I would include you in that. And while we will start off with health, you can go ahead and put the other requests in the chat for me. But at this health for me too, for Reverend Michael, will do. So let's just tune in to this moment as we gently close our eyes. I will begin with the affirmative prayer of health. Recognizing that there is only one presence, one power. That presence is God, and we are one with this power. And in this knowing, I speak this word for Reverend Michael and Dawn, for that perfect health of God, which is now out picturing in through and as their experience. I know that God is health, and that perfect health now surrounds them. I know that every cell, tissue, and fiber of their being is being re-energized, revitalized, and touched into wholeness. Because I know that energy, which is God, now flows freely from the crowns of their heads to the soles of their feet. This perfect health of God, this life force, animates every cell, every tissue and fiber of their being. And in this affirmative prayer of health, I include anyone within the sound of my voice who is also seeking a treatment of health. I am knowing that health is our birthright, and that for each one of us, that essence of perfection is now fully energizing, it is fully revitalizing, and it is flowing easily and effortlessly. So we move with grace and ease for both Dawn and Reverend Michael, and for anyone else who's open and receptive to this affirmative prayer of health. I declare that health is their experience now. I accept this, I believe this, and feeling the fullness of this faith, I release this word to Lord, giving thanks for perfect health as their experience now. Thank you, God, that this is so, and so it is. And there is a request for peace and harmony for Idel, request for love for Dawn, and for Yvonne Carty for a project that she'll be doing, and Carol, perfect right action. So in that order, I will—
Right action for Yvonne Chan.
And right action for Yvonne Chan. So I will start with the earlier request first. And that is for, I'll do peace and harmony before I do love. So let's do peace and harmony for Idel and for anyone else who's open and receptive to this treatment. God is peace. That perfect peace surrounds us. In that peace we safely dwell. It's above, beneath, within us. God is peace and all is well. And recognizing that infinite power and presence, God, operating in, through, and as each one of us, that created each of us out of itself and called it good, created Idel in its image and likeness, and decreed for her that perfect peace and harmony, that peace which passeth all understanding, is hers by right of being. And so I know for Idel and for anyone else who's open to this treatment of peace and harmony, that every person with whom she comes into contact, that all her interactions are harmonious. I am knowing that all her relationships are in harmony with each other. And I know for Idel that the peace of God now attends her way. I know that everywhere she places her feet upon this pathway, that she's surrounded by this peace. She's enveloped by this peace. And I know that every interaction that she has is one of pure joy and harmony. And so I allow the perfect peace and harmony of God to fill Idel from the crown of her head to the soles of her feet. I am knowing that that harmony just simply allows her to breathe in peace. And in its place, she exhales anything unlike peace. And so I know that that harmony now simply allows her to relax, knowing that she is in the presence of God and that all is well. I accept this, I believe this, and I know for Idel that all is well in her world as I release this word to that infinite law of mine that has already said yes. Thank you, God, that this is so now, and so it is. And from that place of perfect peace, I speak this word of love for Dawn and for anyone else who's open to that presence. That presence is love. It is that presence which created each one of us out of itself and called it good. And so I know that that love now attends Dawn every step of the way. I know that that perfect presence of love is deep at her center of her being. It is that which emanates from her heart space. It is that which called her into being. And perfect love said, "Here I am, send me." And so I know for Dawn that every experience and every encounter that she has is one that is loving and harmonious. Because I know for Dawn that she is loving, lovable, and loved. And so we allow this love to fill every area of her life. I know that this love now continues to guide and direct every decision that she takes. Everything that concerns her is done in an atmosphere of love. And so I know that as this love continues to enfold her and to uplift her and to support her every step of the way, I know that that love now flows out into her world, touches into wholeness, everything that needs to be put right. I know that there is not a spot where love is not. And so I allow this love to completely engulf her and circulate through her and emanate out from her. Love is who she is, and so she attracts only love on her pathway. I give thanks. I truly give thanks for this experience of love this evening as I release this word to that infinite law of mine that has already said yes to love in every area of Dawn's life. Thank you, God, that this is so now, and so it is. And friends, please join me in the affirmative prayer of right action for a project for Yvonne, right action for Carol, and also for Yvonne Chang Oliver. So the project is for Yvonne Carty. Please tune in to this affirmative prayer of right action for Yvonne Chang Oliver, for Yvonne Carty, and for Carol. Knowing that there is only one activity. That activity is the activity of God. that is taking place in, through, and as every area of Yvonne, Carol's, and Yvonne's life this evening. I know that as they affirm the perfect idea and the perfect right action, I know that that presence with His God is now guiding and directing every area of their lives. So every undertaking that they put their hearts and minds to, I am knowing that it is unfolding in perfect right order, because they are one with this perfect activity, the activity of God. And so I know that they know what to do, when to do, and how to do it, because they are guided by that infinite intelligence, that idea that knows everything about the undertaking of each one of these beloved souls who have said yes to their call. And so I know for Yvonne, for Carol, and for Yvonne, that truly the activity of God is guiding and directing them every step of the way. Every person that they need to meet with, they meet. Every idea that is necessary for the successful unfolding of these activities is now outpictured in their experience. And so I know that right activity is, and I know that that right action is taking place right here and right now. And so I know for these three souls that as they allow themselves to be guided and directed, the perfect outpicturing is now unfolding easily and effortlessly. I give thanks for the right activity of God in, through, and as their individual lives, and for all of us collectively. I know that this activity is God, and it is outpicturing right here and right now in perfect right order. Thank you, Father God, that this is so now. As I release this word to know, I give thanks. I know that it is so, and so it is.
It is.
Is there anyone else for an affirmative prayer? And if not, then I'd ask Vance to please share with us for a few brief reminders. You are welcome, Yvonne. And so as he is pulling up the PowerPoint to share, we'll start off with today is Tuesday, so we know the reminder would be that tomorrow, Wednesday, we would join Reverend John Scott in his garden for quiet moments. Remember, it's at 6 a.m. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and it's on Reverend John's Facebook page. So please join him for another sharing tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. for a pause that refreshes. And then join Reverend Ann at noon for a midday boost every day, Mondays to Fridays at noon Eastern Standard Time. Join Reverend Ann for Noon Bites. And of course, on Thursday this week, it's at 6 p.m. Join Reverend Sonia Davidson and the team for Prayer Power. The Zoom link is sent out on Thursdays, and it can also be found on our Facebook page. And remember that on the last Thursdays of the month, Prayer Power is at 5 p.m. But come be lifted up by this transformative power of prayer. Welcome, Yvonne. And then, of course, there is classes. Classes is ongoing. Right now, we're in the self-mastery class with Reverend Sonia Davidson every Thursday evening at 9. I know that they have already started, but feel free. You could drop in for a session. But if not, for additional information on classes, go to our classes.templeoflightcsl.org for further information. And friends, just as a reminder, we're looking forward to this weekend's hosting of Reverend Michelle Sinegal in a workshop first on Saturday, July 22nd, entitled Oneness Beyond Our Beloved Community. And then join Reverend Michelle again as our guest speaker on Sunday morning at 9 a.m. And do come out in your numbers to share in this once in a lifetime opportunity, because it's not every day that we are doing a candidate for the position of senior minister. And so we want to ask you to fully support this weekend's event. It will be an awesome sharing. Looking forward to seeing each one of you at the temple. And of course, these events will also be available online. Just remember, the workshop is at 1 to 3 p.m. at the temple. So please come out and support Reverend Michelle as she puts herself out as candidate.
So sorry, Jen. Also, may I?
Sure, Sandy.
If you're in touch with any friends who, you know, were part of our temple community in the past and they haven't been for a while, please share this information with them and do invite them to come out in their numbers. It's going to be a really, really very special and wonderful weekend.
Yes. Thanks for that, Sandy. Yes, please invite our friends and members who we haven't seen to come out. Thanks. Next slide, Vance. And of course, our masterclass. Friends, please remember, masterclass is in October, and we have made it that you can easily attend. So please come in. It's already July, end of July. So we have August and September and October to make our payments. Please remember, you can call the office for details. It's $498 for double occupancy and $465, I'm sorry, and $678 for single occupancy. And it will be a beautiful masterclass with Dr. Dennis Merritt Jones. I'm looking forward to it, looking forward to seeing all of you there. So please call the office for further details and share this information with other persons. If you have the flyer, pass it on to our friends and members, and let us have an awesome gathering at Masterclass 2023. We haven't had a Masterclass since 2019. So I'm looking forward to this. Okay. And of course, next Tuesday evening, join us for another Spiritual Mind Healing service right here at 6 p.m. on Zoom and YouTube Live. And our speaker next week will be practitioner Carol. Is that you? No, Vance. I think it's you, Vance, right? Going from memory and the roster.
It's not me.
I know it's not Carol. It's Vance, right?
Oh, it's Tamu.
Oh, sorry. Oh, you had done Tamu. So it's Tamu. Thank you, Vance. So yes, join practitioner Tamu Davidson next week for another Spiritual Mind Healing service at 6. And so we will now move into our prayer of our center and the prayer of our temple as we close out this evening's service. Prayer of our center. Oh, I'm sorry. Before we do that, yes, if you feel moved to support our ministry, please feel free to donate at donate.templeoflightcsl.org. We thank you for your generosity and for helping us to be a beacon of light in the world. Thank you, Vance, for the reminder. And if you're so moved to donate this evening, then please join me in the love offering blessing. Lovingly I give, joyfully I receive. Be thou fruitful, increase and multiply. Bless, prosper, and enrich everyone whom you touch, and replenish all of my financial affairs. Thank you, Father. And so it is. And so now here is the prayer of our center. Together, the Temple of Light Center for Spiritual Living is a sacred field embodying our spiritual community from which the Christ, peace, love, and joy emanate, to touch, to heal, to bless, to prosper, and to liberate anyone who comes into contact with it in any way. The light of the Christ illumines us, our center, and our environment. Our spiritual community is filled with and surrounded by the presence of God and is growing from strength to strength. The power of God expands our consciousness of truth, guiding us ceaselessly along the paths of wisdom, spiritual growth, unfoldment, and attainment. We are blessed, and to God be the honor and glory forever. And so it is. And now the prayer of Jamaica. And friends, join me in saying together, the radiant light of God's love is now flowing through us and from us to everything and everyone it touches. The eternal light of God's love now completely fills, covers, and surrounds our island, Jamaica. The glowing intensity of the light of God's love now interpenetrates and awakens within the hearts and minds of our countrymen and women the truths of life which set free. The light of God's love is growing and glowing in intensity in the hearts and minds of mankind everywhere. Love, health, harmony, goodwill, peace, uprightness, integrity, joy, prosperity, kindness, and our oneness under God are now established, and so it is. And friends, thank you for sharing your consciousness and your time with me this evening. Thank you, Vance and Yvonne, for your support. Yvonne on YouTube, Vance here with me on Zoom. Just join me in this brief closing affirmative prayer. We give thanks for this shared experience, for this coming together in this which we call a spiritual mind healing service. I know for each one of us that has allowed ourselves to participate in this evening experience, that truly the sharing was one of joy and harmony and one of interaction. And we know that as we allow ourselves to truly be more effective listeners, that we not only listen, but listen with empathy and compassion. And I know that as we go through the remainder of this week, we challenge ourselves to be fully present to each other and to truly hear what we are saying as we listen to the sounds of our environment. Thank you, God, for this, for each other. And we accept the fullness of this faith. I release this word to know. I give thanks. I truly give thanks that all this is so now. And so it is. Thank you, everybody. Really
And
had
so it
a
is.
wonderful evening with you all.
It was a wonderful service. Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks,
very much.
Jane.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome. See you practitioners later.